Hey guys, I'm RoadRunner, and this is going to be the Ball Guy 2.0 version. I made this video about a year ago, and most of it still holds up and is very helpful. But in the past year they've done changes to Wrecking Ball as a character, the game and the meta has evolved, and me as a person has evolved. I've gotten better in the past year, I've played more, so I think that I can give more tips and be more of a guide. And also not having the headset mic is kind of nice for the video. So first we're gonna go through the updates, the patches, what's changed with the character in the past year. Then we're gonna go back over ability basics for you complete noobs that have never played the character. Then we're gonna go into the basic guide on how to get value on the character, talk about some tech, some mechanics that will help you be more fluid with your movement and do some cool things, some other tips to help you climb the ranks, and finally the synergies and encounters again, but they're a little different this time. What has changed in the last year since the last one I made? Well, there's been quite a few changes. The meta completely shifted from double shield to double off tank to now brawl, and ball went from being a throw pick to meta pick to back being not so good. So the first change they did a long time ago was fixing basically double boop. People figured out that you could instant double boop and like just instant delete people and like steamroll them, so they got rid of that, and which also made double booping harder for us to do. There was a quick patch where people figured out you could teleport with sim further away and then it would just make you catapult away. So there was a cool tech there, but they got rid of that pretty quickly. They improved the hit registration of Grappling Claw, which means that you get less no regs because there's a slight aimbot on it, so if you hit like a floor it will move to the closest wall, but this makes some rollouts a little harder, or like you'll notice vertical spins as well. And then the nerfs came in. They got rid of this. Is right here is slam skip. You could like wall jump a corner and then slam, especially like on Hammond second or Oasis Gardens. People would use this a lot, and they got rid of those. They nerfed his survivability from 100 per shield to 75, which means he gets a lot less health over a team fight. And then just recently we got the knockback nerf, so that he boops people less far. It makes a lot more environmental kills harder, but it didn't really change the use of his kit and just make some scenarios more annoying because you don't punish people as hard. Now last time we talked about everything. We talked about the stats, the numbers, the cooldowns. Honestly, I don't think anybody is completely new to the character and hasn't learned these. But we will talk about hidden things about your abilities that people might not know about and how to effectively use those abilities. Ball is an ability-based character, kind of like Doomfist. So your guns are more so your poke damage before you go in, or form some ult charge, or the follow-up damage after you have used those abilities. You're not a Zarya that sits behind your Reinhardt and shoots. You need to be using your abilities. That being said, you still do 250 damage per second if you're hitting all headshots. So you still have a very high damage if you can aim. So there's a lot of times that you can win duels with just your aim without needing to use your abilities, because you have that high DPS with your naturally high health pool. Roll. It's just your mobility. It hides your head hitbox, which is really good, but it's nothing special. Every character in the game moves 5.5 meters per second, and with roll, you now go to 10 meters per second in all directions. There are certain abilities that can force you out of ball: Sombra Hack, Ryan Shatter, On Asleep, Sigma Rock, Hog Hook, but not all stuns. Kree, Mei, they don't force you out of ball form. You will also automatically reload when in ball, and it's the exact same reload time as your regular reload, so it's always better to roll around, hide that head, be harder to hit while you're reloading. Grapple is your mobility that gets you across the map so quickly. It gets you on the flanks, it gets you on high grounds. It's a very important key ability to ball. It increases your movement speed from that 10 to 20 meters per second, and at 15 is when you hit that sweet phase that gives you fireball. The grapple has a 23 meter length, and it locks as you get closer to it, but it does give you back at least 6 meters when you're right on the wall. This is good for tech later on. As most of you know, you can't grapple the floor, but there are exceptions. You can grapple stairways, because for a stair to go up over, it takes a wall and a floor, so you will grapple the wall of the staircase. And there are other sneaky spots where it's pretty much a floor, but there are little objects that stick out in the floor that give you a wall. Slam is your setup for your team. You can slam in a 1v1, but a lot of times when you're slamming a team, you want to make sure that you have your team to be following up so you can get maximum value. You need to be 2.25 meters above the ground to slam. For reference, jump is about 1 meter, so you basically just need to double your jump height in order to get a slam off. So you don't need to grapple up or jump off a giant high ground to slam. you can use small objects that will give you this height. Slam has an 8-meter radius and is blocked by shields. If you slam inside a Zarya bubble, it will block pretty much all of it, depending on where you hit, because if you slam inside the bubble, it's going to block in front, behind, left, right, all around her basically. You also notice before you actually slam, you don't instantly go down. There is a time period where you go up and forward where you're looking, and this is also important for text later on. Your shields. This is what makes you a tank. Engaging without them will always be risky. Notice it's the same radius as slam, and is also blockable just like slam. It does have a cast time of 0.2 seconds, which you can die off before they go. So those times where you thought you pressed it and died, yes, it can be ping, but also there's 0.2 seconds where you'll have used it but not gotten it, but you can't be stunned out of it. And it's very important to know that these personal shields don't give ult charge, just like a regular barrier wouldn't. Even if it's like the ending of a fight and it's a 6v2 and you know you don't need shields because you have no threat of dying, it's still good to use them because then you're not feeding that extra ult charge to the enemies at the end of the fight. And now your ultimate ability, Minefield. You spread out 15 mines in 3 rings, 1 in the middle, and then 6 in the second ring, and 8 in the third ring. They last for 20 seconds. Hammond also still gets ultimate charge while the minefield is out, so this is why some people feel like minefield charges really quickly, because you can get 30% to your next one while your other one's still out. Since they have a travel time, if you're higher in the air when you use them, they'll spread out more, or if you're closer to the ground, they'll be in a tighter area. They also stick to walls and ceilings, so be careful. When you're doing a really high one, they might all just get stuck to the roof and then they're kind of useless. This is how much damage you have to deal for you to get your ult charge. With passive ult gain, it'll be less than this in game. This is the number of damage you have to do to gain 1 minefield. There's like 3 ways you can use minefield. You can go for 1 for big AoE kills, killing squishies, killing the team, because it does do big burst damage. But it can actually be a genuine zoning ult. You can control space, or split the team, deny a flank or a route that they want to go by just minefielding it. Or you can just use it to contest point, especially on King of the Hill, or even 2CP, when they have to touch point, but they can't because of the minefield. It can be really good. Most people have settled on Ball being a main tank, especially after the past metas where we had Ball being played with Sigma, Hog, and Zarya. But to be honest, the line between main tank and off tank has been fading away, as there's many times that there's double off tank or double main tank being played, so it doesn't really matter what he is. But your main role on Ball is to create space and take pressure off your team. But obviously he doesn't do that in the same way a Reinhardt would, just holding W and shield. Ball doesn't have that kit. Ball makes space by being an annoyance and disrupting the enemies with your cooldowns, by booping and slamming them. In turn, the enemies are going to look at you, and then your team has some space. You have a kit that is really good for 1v1ing. So take those fights with their backline DPS or support. Take for example your 1v1ing their Ana. You either get cooldown / resource advantage out of them by fighting that Ana, getting her nade and sleep out, or you completely kill her and then your team has an actual pick advantage. Just as long as you're not dying for these kills or advantages. Even if you can't kill that Widow with a Mercy Bucket, just distract and harass her so she can't do the funny click head thing. Try to pressure the damage heroes off of high grounds or other angles to then open up angles for your own DPS to take, so that they have better sightlines to kill people. Your job isn't to kill 5 people a fight, it's to set up your team to kill people. The 3 basic core steps to getting value on Wrecking Ball. Scout, setup, hit. You use your third-person camera and the movement speed that you have to scout or figure out what the enemies are playing and where they are pathing to go. And then depending on the situation, you set up for your abilities to then engage on them. And then the third step, hit, is just when you execute your rotation of cooldowns. Now the comp they are playing and where they're going will always be different, and it will always change how you decide to set up or hit. Most times when you're defending, you want to slam the choke to slow them down and try to get kills with follow-up on that slam. But if they have a dive comp, like Winston or D.Va and Ball, then their backline supports are easier for you to kill. So maybe you don't want to slam choke, you want to wait for them to dive and then go in the backline. Or they could have a brawl / rush comp, which is like Rein Zarya, and then it's better for you to set up to boop them away from your team to slow them down and then slam them. Or if they have a poke range comp, like Double Shield, Orisa, Sigma, the ranged characters, the snipers, booping them into your team past the choke will be better because then they don't have their natural cover to get behind, and then slam them out of it. This is why Ball is so dynamic and hard to master. Unlike Reinhardt, where you almost constantly just sit in the front line of your team, Ball has to adapt to many different situations and change his play style. A good baseline to try to figure out what things you should do in what scenarios is the 3 Ds: dive, duel, disrupt. These are the things that Ball has the capability of doing, but obviously not in every scenario can he do those. You can dive if they don't have a lot of stuns, or you have a Zari bubble, or a monkey's diving with you, or your team just has some resource or player number advantage. Then you can go in and slam them all you want. But a lot of times you're going to be taking a lot of damage and dying quickly, so diving is not always a possibility. Dueling is when you're taking 1v1s. Widowmakers are a top priority for you. Or if you find an isolated support, like Zenyatta, then you can just quickly 1v1 them. You're very tanky with decent damage. You should always win majority of 1v1s. The only 1v1s that you don't out-trade would be like Bastion. Sometimes Tracer can be hard, but many of the characters you can just play range, or play after cooldowns, or if it's like Orisa versus Ball, you might not kill her because of how tanky she is, but she's definitely not killing you. And then disrupt can be two things. It can be physically disrupting them with your boops, or by just contesting point, putting pressure on the point, forcing them to move to contest you. For example, when I did an unranked GM, I had a game like this. They had a Widowmaker, and that was my top priority, so I was always on her. Every time I went on her, she had a Mercy pocket. So then I have to go on the Mercy, because I'm not going to kill the Widow through the Mercy pocket. But then the Mercy was getting healed by the Ana, and so there was just kind of a trio of people that I couldn't kill. So after a few attempts, and that didn't work, you have to try something new. If one thing doesn't work, try something else. So then you can see that I tried to force point, making the tanks break the front line, having to touch point or something, so then my team could get through choke. But the Mercy or the Doom were always smart enough to touch point and not let me get free cap, so the front line was never broken still. So I had to try the third thing, which would be physically booping them. Try booping the tanks in, past the choke, hopefully my team can kill them quickly. Basically, if something's not working, try something else. And be unpredictable, especially on defenses. If you keep doing the exact same thing over and over, they're gonna expect it and start countering you or reacting to you, and you'll get less value. A good example is like Temple of Anubis, where it's already pretty hard to defend that one, just because of how awkward the point is for Ball, but normally you hold the right side of the choke as they're walking through. But if they're ready for that, then they might stop you, so then you can hold behind them and surprise them with a boop forward. Or you can hold in the room, or hold top left, and you can do a lot of different things, but you always have to change it so that they don't start countering you. So to start with tech, we're going to do the easy techs, the ones that you need to know, the ones you might even do without even noticing, and then we'll go into harder ones later. So to start out, minefield momentum. Understanding that you can keep your momentum after your minefield is important. If you're just rolling in your minefield, you'll lose your speed. But if you jump during or before or after, you can re-fireball. Going downhill, you don't need to jump because you'll regain fireball from the downhill momentum. But if you're going uphill, even jumping can be hard to get your momentum back. Learning to slam the minimal slam height. Some people don't realize how low it actually is. The speaker right here, you can't slam off the speaker, but just a little bit higher on the middle of this railing, you can slam. So understanding this perfect distance can be really helpful in visualizing objects that you can slam off of. On full sky, a lot of people may struggle to slam off this because the diagonal, the slanted part, you can't. You have to be right in the middle of the object to be able to slam off of it. So as you just saw, to slam, you have to be above the ground. You can either grapple up or jump off high grounds or objects. But as we talked about earlier, since you gain distance on the slam, you can jump off or roll off a high ground and instantly slam back onto it. But it's very important to know that you can be on a high ground contesting it and just quickly slam it at them. Or you can be 1v1ing someone and then have that instant slam. It's also good to note that since you gain height, you can roll down pretty far and still grab the ledge. But since you go forward, you actually have to have that room to go forward, or else your slams may look like this, where you're just riding against the wall. You're definitely high enough to slam onto the ledge, but since you're not going forward, you're not able to slam on that edge. And notice on some maps like King's Row, there's little holes in the map. You can like lose your Orisa shields or like May ult or Zarya grabs through it, but since it's above the ground, you can slam randomly through these holes. You can't just hold the button down to slam, you have to jump to slam, which is a little weird, but it's really helpful, even though you're probably not going to be playing ball on King's Row. The speed cancel. High ground controlling is a very important part of Wrecking Ball. You always want to contest people, but if you roll down into the team after you boop them off, it's not always the best. You want to boop them off high ground and keep that high ground and keep out that pressure from above. So you can instantly stop your speed or your momentum by either pressing your primary fire, your left clicks, the shooting, or the button that shifts you from ball to crab, and this instantly stops all your speed. The classic spin to win. Most of you have probably already seen it, done it, heard of it. Even if you don't realize what it is, you do it. With grapple having its minimum length, you can grapple something and spin around it. You can do this two ways, either by moving your camera and just following the ball with your mouse or joystick and always holding W, or you can use your movement and keep your camera still in one spot. You can see here the way I cycle my keys and my camera doesn't move, but I'm still spinning around it. The blender, it's like spin to win, but except you're grappling underneath the high ground, and then you're getting to that high ground, and with that you can spin without there actually being anything visibly that you're grabbing onto. This is good for either disrupting the dive. If they dive on top of you, they can't really dive on top of you because you're just going to boop them away, or as they're pushing up, it boops them and messes them up as they're trying to push into you. I made a video about this a little while ago. Some of the spots are patched because of the consistency change. It made the frame grapples hard, but also remember that this isn't always great because a McCree can just come up and boom, flashbanged, or a Brig can just come up and boom, bash, and then you're useless pretty much, right? So it's not like something that you always do. I never do it, honestly. The bee hop, or bunny hop. It's a very common tech that's in a lot of other video games. Basically, it's when you're jumping as you're landing to keep your momentum. Lucio can do this as well, but you notice here, if I'm not jumping, how much longer it takes me to get to point compared to when I am jumping. So all you do is just spam your jump every time you're about to hit the ground, and you'll keep a higher speed for longer than just going right back down to your lower speed. The Toronto kick. Although it's not a tech that you see often, it's still an easy tech to do. You just have to grapple something high and roll yourself back. It's easier with momentum, so you can just roll back, jump, and grapple all in one quick movement, and this will give you enough height to slam. It's not that good because it uses both your abilities for you to slam one spot, and most times you want your grapple to boop, or you can use other techs to gain slams like the ledge, or another one we're going to talk about later, without having to use your grapple. If you can get a slam off without grapple, it's always better that way. You can do this after a minefield. If you can't get your minefield slam off, then you can minefield Toronto kick, and it does the same thing as a regular slam would. Tightrope can be used in many different ways. You notice on this ledge I cannot slam, but if I tightrope, which is when I grapple something really low to the ground underneath me, it gives me a little more height to slam. It's kind of like a inverted Toronto kick. Once again, this isn't great because it uses both your cooldowns just for a slam. Even like the smallest and smallest of ledges, I can get slams off of. It is more so used for mobility. You notice here, if I jump this gap, I lose my speed right on that spray, but if I tightrope it by grappling at the other side of the gap and jumping across, I keep my speed for much longer. It also makes some gaps that are impossible to jump across way easier, or you can gain height on these rollouts to get to high grounds or gaps that weren't possible. There's some really nice boop spots, some really clean rollouts that this tech can be used for. And now some harder tech that will actually take practice to learn, but can still be used in games. Wall jumps is probably the most useful tech that you actually have to learn. There are lots of techs, but they don't take any practice. You can just like see it and learn it. Wall jumping takes practice and to learn how the timing works of being able to do it, but it can be so helpful being able to slam without your grapple, being able to get to high grounds, contest high ground, and be able to pretty much slam anywhere, and just from mobility of not having to use your grapple because you can just get to a high ground without grapple. The basic is you just walk into a wall, and as you hit the wall you jump. There's different kinds of jumps. There's slanted walls, objects, corners, there's tons of different kinds of walls. And we're going to explain how to do each one, because some of them will be harder to hit, like this straight wall on 100 more is a lot harder to do than say some walls on Temple of Anubis. But I will teach you how to not be the guy that just walks and keeps bumping his head on the wall, and how you can actually gain height. If you're new to wall jumps, I suggest you go to Temple of Anubis second point. Every single wall here is slanted. There's not a single wall you shouldn't be able to wall jump. You should never have to grapple up on this map to be able to slam. You can literally wall jump on every wall. All you have to do is walk into the wall and jump as you hit it. Since it's slanted, it's very easy for you to continue your momentum upwards, and there isn't much timing. You'll notice on the keyboard overlay, I literally don't stop holding the forward button. I don't do anything else. I just forward, jump, not hard. Once you get comfortable with doing this, then you can start going into other harder jumps, like objects and corners. It's also very helpful in 1v1s, where you can just be shooting someone, quickly roll up an easy wall, and slam them. Now, as I said, a lot of different things are easier or harder to wall jump on. Objects have weird hitboxes, but plenty of them have nice hitboxes that make it really easy to wall jump. I don't do anything else crazy here. You notice how these objects, you can just roll into them, and for whatever reason, your ball goes very high. But these are some weird looking walls that look really hard to jump, but because of that sign or that object, I'm able to get that height to slam high ground or the people or whatever. Notice how this is a flat wall, but since there's a little telephone thing here, I can go up, or on a wall sky, these little weird things. This is a normal flat wall, it would be hard, but since these objects are here, I can even grapple into them and go really high because of how easy that hitbox just lets you do it. Now the next wall jump is the corner jump. It's when there's two walls that meet and it's a corner, as the name implies. When you do these wall jumps, you want to hit one wall and kind of like bounce into the other wall. If you're going right down into the middle, you can hit it sometimes, but it can be really annoying. But if you just slightly bump into the side wall, into the other wall, it'll always be easy. This is really good for getting high grounds without needing your grapple. You can just be chilling down main and then boom, you're on high ground. Now you can slam in or get behind them or contest people on high ground. You can have so many options being able to rotate around maps like this. And even if it's a super high wall, you can still use it to get enough height to slam a high ground. As we talked about earlier with the ledge slam, you need to move back a bit to be able to slam up onto that ledge, but you can corner, move back, slam onto the ledge, and it's really good for contesting snipers or DPS. It doesn't even have to be a proper corner. There can be an object like a cactus or a tree, or a telephone pole or a wire or something weird. There's lots of maps have these weird objects, but it counts as a corner. It's like an object / corner where you're jumping into two things that give you height. Now straight 90-degree walls are where it gets hard. The other ones, all you have to do is press your forward key or your joystick forward into the wall and you have to jump at the right time. That's all you have to do for all those wall jumps. But for straight walls, a lot of times you can't just do that. You have to put in the opposite movement key. You'll notice when you go into the wall, I'll just keep hitting it, and a few times I'll hit it nicely, but unless you move your momentum backwards as you're about to hit the wall, it's not going to be consistent. So you roll into the wall, and as you hit it, you also move backwards. It slows your momentum down, so you're not going full speed into the wall, and it also gives you the backwards. It also moves you backwards from the wall so that you can slam up and not grind the wall. It takes some practice, and even the best players will mess up it here and there. And every wall is different, and they can be annoying. Some walls will be more forgiving, and other walls will not be. But as long as you're going into the wall, and as soon as you're about to hit it, not just jump, but move backwards. You need speed to gain height because it continues your momentum, but you don't want to be full pressing into the wall, or else it won't let you go up, and you have to be soft with it. Corner boosts. When you hit the edge of your ball into a corner of a wall, like a little ledge, you kind of go a bit up and you just kind of keep your momentum in the air longer. So on little slants where you can't slam, but then if you just hit the corner, you keep your height a little bit longer so you can slam. It's only helpful in a few spots, but being able to use your slam everywhere all the time is always great. There's no timing with this one as well. It's just hit the wall, jump into the wall, and it will boop you up and over. Wall climb. It's a more new one that I made a video on just a little bit ago. But instead of having to roll into the wall, you can actually just walk into the wall and press your transform and your jump at the same time. You'll notice that you kind of go up, you kind of hover, and then you fall. You don't really get as much height as you would with like a regular wall jump, because you are moving slower when you hit the wall, but you can still gain high grounds or use it in a 1v1 duel to quickly get slams off. And it's just kind of easier to do, so if you can't get wall jump timing down, especially on the 90-degree straight walls, you can maybe learn this and it's a little easier. Now, just like how you can't roll through an enemy, because enemies have hitboxes, you can't just walk through them, they're an object, they're in person. So the same as object jumps, you can jump into a character like they're a wall, and you can wall jump off characters. You can either just literally walk onto their head and stuff, but in a normal game when they're walking around, you probably can't do that, but you can roll into people and jump off them, and either use that for a slam, or use it to get high grounds. You can do this wall and fire, so you can like boop them once, and then speed cancel character jump to do something like this. And just like the Toronto kick, this is pretty helpful after a minefield. You can boop minefield. When you minefield, there's a slight little bit that you're not on fire, so you can speed cancel with the minefield to wall jump the character and slam them into the mines. It can sound complicated, but it doesn't take that long to get the timing and the hang of it. Now bounce, it's the same as wall jumps or object wall jumps, but it's while you're on fire. So you can fly into an object while you're on fire, enabled to get either more height or more distance, and get to some really high grounds, and contest DPS, and just do some crazy rollouts to get to places that people don't expect you to be. If you want to learn this, go to Second Point Hollywood, as there's plenty of bounces everywhere that can be really good, especially when there's so many high grounds on that map. Now before, we talked about how your grapple can only retreat to 6 meters. That's not much, but it is just enough to gain some of your speed back. Not if you're starting at completely slow, but if you're grappling into the wall, there is about a meter or two that you do have a chance to let go of your grapple and still be on fire, called the rebound. You have to grapple into the wall, and it's just all about timing of letting go right before you would get choked by the retracting length block. And there's 2 ways to do this. You either go into the wall and flip your movement direction from forward to backward, or you completely turn your camera and look behind you. If you have a higher sense, this is easier. If this can be good for when you minefield, but the people are just out of the way, you can then rebound them into the mines. Or environmental kills. You can bait people to edges, slam, not even have to slam, and then just rebound. And same thing can be done with a 90-degree. It's a little easier because it's not a full switch of direction, just a half switch. But you can use any corner, go into it, and then go to the other side, the left or the right. A 90-degree turn. Psst, hey. If you're enjoying the video so far, don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe, and follow my Twitch so you can see me live. All those epic things, it would really help me out. Thanks, man. And then this is kind of just some miscellaneous tips. I don't have direct categories for them, so I'm just going to spit some good tips that will help. Ball is a tank that actually takes more mechanics than most other tanks. It takes practice to not be clunky on the character and to have good movement. So if you're just trying out the character for the first time, don't expect to be good at him. It takes time to gain that natural feeling for how the character moves and works. Die less. I know, it sounds kind of stupid, kind of forehead, like yeah, just die less. But it is true. Your existence is pressure. If you are living with 5 HP and having to walk around to get health packs and megas, that is more worth it than dying, because you're still alive and they still have to worry about what you're doing, where you are, and you getting that healing, it will be quicker than having to walk from spawn. But the more you're alive, the more uptime you have, the more damage you're dealing, the more boops you're getting, the more annoying you are, the more ult charge you're getting, and just dying less will always make you get more value. When we talk about scout setup hit, you want to minimize the poke or the damage you take before you hit in the setup phase, basically. You need to have full HP almost all the time before you're engaging. And you really don't want to force early resources or cooldowns out of your team before the fight's even started, because the fight starts when you engage. As you climb the ranks, you're going to realize that people react quicker to whatever you're doing. Once you get to like a good mid-rank like plat, you can't be running down main just grappling in and slamming. You need to find your flanks and ways to get above or behind them. When you swing straight in, they're just going to be looking at you, and you're going to take more damage before you're even in, or they'll even boop or stun and mess you up so that you don't actually get your full engage off. You need to be aware of your team. Ball isn't a character that can just 1v4. You need to see where your team is at and see that you have follow-up or damage or something to actually help you confirm those kills, because your slams will only do half their health. Even with a boop, even with your guns, it's unlikely that you're going to kill them all on your own. You need a team, so make sure that you're aware of where your team is and if they can help you, and follow up before you engage. Have an escape route or have cover close by. Even if they don't have any stuns, after you slam, you're going to be taking a lot of damage. And so if you don't have a wall or natural cover to play behind, you will die a lot. If you're slamming open sightline and there's a lot of time that you have to roll around in the open just to get away, then it'll be very hard for you to be living. So be engaging on corners and chokes, and even after you slam, just take a quick half second to roll around a cover so you minimize the angles where you can take damage from. Now back to tech, but this is hard tech that is very difficult to master and get the hang of, and very few people will actually use it in game because it's not really that good. The infamous double boop. Many people gave up on it and thought they couldn't do it anymore, but it still is. Even after the boop nerf and all the other changes to it, you can still double boop. So this original double boop, all you have to do is go forward into them and then slow down with your opposite key enough to then reset your fireball. If you do it too quick, you'll end up going through them because there is a hard timer that doesn't let you boop them a second time. But if you slow down just enough, you can reboop a few times, multiple times. You can also do the 180 double boop. This used to be really good, but I don't really recommend it anymore. But you don't have to let go of your forward key, you just have to look away to reset your fireball instead of having to press that opposite movement key. When booping someone uphill, the timer kind of resets as they hit the ground, so you're able to boop them a little bit quicker as they're going uphill. So you can go uphill and hit some quicker double boops or triple boops and slams with that. And it has some really quick damage and combos. Drop boop also used to be really good because there was an instant boop, but now there's still a hard timer, but you can boop someone while you're midair falling and then boop them a second time once you slow down just enough. You don't need to fall from the high ground for a drop boop as well. You can use a wall jump to drop boop. And then if you're feeling wacky, you can grapple to boop them midair and then instantly slam after you hit their forehead for a damage combo. Some maps have certain interactions with some objects. They aren't very hard or difficult to do. It's just that they can only work on specific maps. The Hollywood launch. When they changed the elevators in Hollywood, they made them fast. And when they're fast, you can get booped out of them. So here, you can trigger them, grapple right underneath them, not on them, and then go underneath them. And then when the elevator slams down onto you, it pushes you up. It's really good on the second elevator because you can clear out the high ground that the soldier and the McCrees are playing on, and then also contest the jail. Notice on my POV, if you're the DPS player, you'll look over, they're not there, you'll hear the elevator go up, you look over, they're not there, and then all of a sudden you get booped. Whoa, crazy. On Volskaya, there's the moving platforms. You can grab a moving platform, but then sit behind a wall, and then as the platform moves, it will pull you along and force you with it. The first one's just more so for a rollout. It's not really that helpful, but the second one can be really good for attacking B, as you can launch yourself and go to any of the ledges, any of the high grounds, or even just slam main. And it's just a really sneaky surprise way of flying in when they don't expect you to come from. Horizon Lunar Colony. Yeah, I know, who plays this map anymore? But technically it still exists. This is what we call slingshotting. You can grapple into these tires, and if you hit it with your fireball, it launches the tire, and while you're attached to it, you get launched with it. You can have some crazy stalling, some crazy flailing around. It doesn't last very long sometimes. Sometimes it flails you around a lot, sometimes it dies off really quickly. It's kind of weird and inconsistent. And then roof sticks. There's a few roofs in the game that you can either slam into and get stuck, or you can just have roofs that you can surf on forever. So for example, Eichenwald here, you have to slam into this, but then you can be stuck here and then be behind them when they roll through choke. Or you can just sit on this roof. You don't need to pile drive into this one. You can just sit on it and roll around. There are plenty of spots like this, and I can't really go over all of them, but it's a nice sneaky way of getting set up where they don't expect you to be. Now I guess this is also tech, but they're mostly just bugs. So if you ever have a weird interaction that accidentally happened, this is probably one of them, but they're very hard to recreate and they're not reasonable to be redone in-game. The only way of instant double booping now is the LOS boop, or line of sight. Once you go out of line of sight of the enemy, the hard timer kind of resets, and I guess the game forgets that you were you boop them the first time. So little tight poles like these, you can boop them on the one end, go past it, and then boop the second time. But how often is someone going to be standing right there for you to, oh yes, right here I can line of sight boop them? It's not often, they're never set up for it. If you do it, it's probably by accident. The hitbox bounce. Basically, when someone's in a corner and you are also in that corner, you can't both occupy the same space. So the game launches you out. On a map like Dorado 3rd or Lijiang Tower, there's no skybox, so you can go really high. But you notice here on second point, I hit the skybox and I instantly fall. If it's a smaller character, their hitboxes are smaller, but you can still gain some height off of them. This one doesn't really have a name. I call it the Ferris wheel or the cartwheel, I don't know. But it's the same thing as the hitbox bounce, where you're occupying the same space, so the game launches you away. Basically, if you grapple right behind them and they get booped right where your 6 meter retraction length is, then they land right where you also are, and then it makes you fly away. You're never gonna purposely plan to do this. You're never gonna get that perfect length all the time. But if it ever accidentally happens to you, then you know it's because your grapple length finished right where they landed, and so you flew away. This one I call the instant deflect boop. When you roll into a wall, there is a slight frame, or a few frames I guess, where you still have fire going the other way. It's like a rebound boop, but we already use the word rebound, so we call it deflect. So basically you can use this to grapple into a wall, and then in that frame, you can boop them the opposite way. It used to be a lot better, like on a icon wall bridge here, that would boop them off the map before the nerf. Once again, you don't really plan to do these, it's just kind of accidental if it does happen. But when they do happen, and you get clips like these, it's just kind of hilarious. I know I'm going to get this a lot in the comments, so here's how to use the custom bot. You press your interact button to place where he is, and then hello will spawn him. He moves to whatever place that you tell him to go, so anytime you press interact wherever you're looking, he'll move to that spot. You'll notice even after you boop him, he will continue to walk towards that spot. That's why in the double boop section, I took away the command that makes him move, so that it was easier to double boop, because when he's walking towards you, it makes the timing even harder. When you're in spawn, whatever character you're on, if you press interact, the bot will turn into that character. You can say, I need healing, to go back to spawn if you ever need to change something. You can say group up to despawn the bot, if you need to get rid of them. And you can also set personal spawn points. If you do ultimate charge, it will set a custom spawn, so that if you fall or you need to go back somewhere, you just say thank you, and boom, you teleport. You'll notice it also marks your grapples. Wherever you grapple, you'll see that there's a little spot on the wall of where I grappled and where I was standing. It also marks the moment you turn on to fireball, so you can see the distance it takes for you to gain fire. You can use the grapple markers to learn rollouts or grapple spots and slightly adjust them if they need a little change. And then you can learn some good rollouts. There's no special keybinds for ball, but especially for you console people, having hold to crouch will help when you want to hold your slam button down. If you're on toggle crouch, you have to press it at the spot, especially for when you're getting barely enough height off of wall jumps or objects. If you're holding your slam button, it will always be easier to slam. I have my crouch on my mouse button, not just for ball, but more so for crouch spam juking on other characters. Same with jump, scroll down, it's good for B hops, but I also have that more so for like Lucio rollouts and quick melee on a mouse button, of course. I know this is getting long, but I just want to talk about synergies and counters. So here we're going to talk about synergies, what type of team comp you want to be playing when you have ball, or what times you want to be picking ball, depending on what your teammates are playing. So to start off with the supports. Now what your supports are playing doesn't completely affect you choosing ball, because you can get away with any healing comp really, because ball is very self-sustainable and can rely on mega health packs, rather than his team healing him. The supports that you like are more so just ones that can follow up and assist you. So Anna's really good because she can heal you, nano you, she can anti off your slams, you guys can do a lot together, and she's like one of the only healers that can actually heal you while you're in their backline because she has that ranged healing. Zen is really good as well. I was debating him putting on S, but Anna's just on another level compared to Zen, but he can just give you an orb, and although it's not a lot of healing, it's enough just to heal you up a little bit. But for the most part, being able to shoot the target that he's discorded, or just his damage follow-up on your slams is really good. He's just got range damage, and Ball excels with range damage comps, which is also why Mercy's good. although she doesn't do damage herself, she damage boosts that Ashe, or that Kree, or that Soldier, any really mid to long range DPS. You slam, she's damage boosting them, and then those people that you slam will die quicker. And Bap, same thing. He doesn't heal you a lot, he really heals AoE, as his team is stacked up in like a rush comp or a double shield comp, but he still has that range damage, and Window can be really good with your slam. Window slam, people are dead instantly, and Immortality will always be good, although it's going to be hard for him to heal or Immortality you when you're in their backline. Brig can heal you, just kind of like a Zen where she can throw a pack at you and not have to worry about you. You can get a little bit of healing from your Brig, but most times she's just packing her squishies. The value from Brig doesn't come from her following up on your damage, but her just protecting her backline. Her Brig makes the backline undivable, so now your backline is more free to do things so that they can follow up for you, so you don't have to protect them. Honestly, like, yes, Lucio can be good because he can dive with you and do damage and heal you and Reddit Lucio while you're doing your thing in the back, but most of the times I find Lucio's speed annoying. When you play ball enough, you get a feel for his movement and where you're going to end up with grapples and stuff, but Lucio's speed just throws you off, and especially if you amp, there's so many times where Lucio will just kill me. I'll fall off the map, I'll try to go for a jump and I'll die, or I'll try to do something and I'll mess it up and it completely just ruins my grapple cooldown, or just I'll die. But it can still be good because sometimes if he amps when you actually want him to, you can get across to gaps that were even further that are helpful. And then Mora, she's just on another level of useless. Lucio has some value for you, but Mora has no value. She's not healing you, and she doesn't have much damage follow-up. And she doesn't have much damage follow-up. All of her value comes from a stacked Rein Zarya or double shield comp again, where they're all grouped up. She doesn't have range damage. The most she can do is throw a damage orb on your slam, or maybe a coalescence or ultimate, but for the most part, she doesn't help you out. Now tanks are kinda like supports in the way that you can get away with the majority of tanks with ball. Now when I made this last year, we were in a double shield meta, and so playing ball was already annoying because people wanted 2 shields, but if you went hog and ball, then you'd have no shields and it would just be a GG go next. People would give up so quickly. But the meta changed and people adapted to being more self-sufficient, and so now off tanks that enable ball aren't as bad anymore, like Zarya. Zarya is really good with ball because the downside to ball is when you jump in, you get CC'd, take a lot of damage, and die very quickly. Bubble completely, well not completely, but can negate a lot of that, make you not get stunned, make you be able to get your slam off and then get out before you're stunned, or just give you an extra 200 health. The Zarya will always be getting a lot of energy if she's bubbling you on your engages, and then she's able to protect her backline and do a lot of damage because she's always high charge. Monkey kind of has the same vibe with Zarya where it's since you have a monkey you can go all in, it's just that this means that you don't have any protection for your backline. Monkey and ball both don't really protect their backline very good, so unless you have like Bap Brig or even on a Brig maybe, but you have to go very all in and try to kill them before they kill you, so it can be risky, but it's just really fun until they go Bap Brig and then you can't kill anything. D.Va is really good as well, just like Monkey, how you can dive and go all in on someone, but she also has that flexibility of being able to protect and babysit her backline and protect them while eating those. She can actually eat the flashbang or the sleep instead of Monkey, who just like hopefully you can block it with your bubble. The other 3 tanks we talked about already kind of enable dive. Now Ursa and Sigma just enable poke, so they play more bunker style and they shoot at range while you're disrupting them and setting them up. There was literally just a ball Sigma meta at the beginning of 2021 where Sigma, Brig, and Zen played together, and then Tracer and Ball would be flanking. It was like a dive spam hybrid. They don't like inherently help each other, they're just very good at holding their position, holding their front line, keeping their team alive, and doing range damage, consistent range damage, spamming people out. With Orisa you have pull slam combos, so that your slams are going to always be doing like full damage, and it's just like insane setup. And Bong is really good, or with Sigma you can slam rock, or slam flux, or you can minefield onto the flux. Just a lot of combos that can work together. Now Ball Rein is getting better than it was before, but it's always going to be the same. Rein likes to have people to enable him. Zarya bubble, do a defense matrix, so that he can take less damage and he can W key and left click into the team. With Ball you don't have any abilities that directly take off that damage off of him, so instead you just have to play very aggressive, like with a Monkey. You jump in where Ball goes in, takes some of those stuns and damage off for the Reinhardt, so then the Reinhardt is more free to swing and stuff. You just be very aggressive because you're going to die quick, or he's going to die quick if you don't get something done quick. Hog and Ball, it's honestly better than it was before. It's not an instant loss. You can get away with it. It's just a very selfish comp, where you're both gonna live on your own. Hog's flanking, Ball's flanking. It just means that they can run down your DPS, your supports very easily if you don't get picks and capitalize on those picks. You can land hooks off your slams, or even if you just boop someone out of position or in front of the shield, you can land hook them and you can kill them very quickly. And as long as your DPS are playing like a range like Ash Mercy, self-sustainable people, you could get away with it. It's just a very deathmatch, messy comp, and it's not going to work the higher SR you get. Now, there's a lot of DPS characters, so I'm just going to quickly mention why it's like this. With Ball, you're setting up with your slams, so any sniper range damage character is really good at following up on that. But also, since you can dive, you can be with Tracer or a dive character, and they can just really quickly delete backline. The only people that are lower would be like Bastion, because he requires a comp setup around him, shields and resources. Ball doesn't give those resources. And then these three like slow projectiles, where they don't really follow up off your slams as good. And now counters. What characters are you afraid of? What characters do you not want to be playing Ball against? We're going to reverse and go in DPS first. Bastion, the hardest counter to Ball in the game. You can't boop him, you can't 1v1 him, you can't ever displace him, and he just looks at you and kills you in 2 seconds. You can get decent value against Bastion comps because you can boop his supports and his tanks that are protecting him and make the whole bunker messed up, but you're not going to do anything directly to the Bastion. Sombra, also a very hard counter because Ball is an ability based character, her hack takes away abilities, and it just makes you a walking tin can. Even if you're good at playing against Sombras and not getting hacked by the Sombras, she will always just make you entirely change your playstyle. Just them picking the character makes you have to play slower, play smarter, play differently, because you know if you get hacked, you will die. And McCree and Echo, just because of their high burst damage, Echo, if you're discorded or she's damage boosted by Mercy, Echo can one combo you really quickly, and even if she's not killing you, she's always doing a lot of damage that makes you not be able to engage. Plus, she's flying around and hard to kill. McCree as well, he's got good range damage that is always going to poke you down, and if he's smart and saves his flashbang for your engages, it's going to be very hard for you to engage, and then he can just flashbang, fan the hammer, roll, fan the hammer, and do pretty close to all of your health. He can melt tanks really easily, just like Echo and Bastion. And then the entire A tier is more so characters that just annoy you. They might not directly counter you, but their consistent range damage is annoying. Hanzo, Soldier, Ashe, you can jump on them and kill them, but while you do so, before you actually finish killing them, they're going to do a lot of damage to you. Once you're done with those 1v1s, you're probably not able to continue fighting until you get some healing. And a lot of time, the Ashe or the Soldier will be paired with a Mercy, and then it makes it even harder to kill those people. Mei and Reaper are just people that you can't really slam on. If you slam on them, you're either going to get frozen, or just take a lot of damage. Reaper's new change with his range update makes it even harder to play against him. You just have to outrange him and not engage on him, because he will probably out-heal your damage. And Trace is just like a constant little flea that can chase you around and always be slowly tickling you down. It takes her like 3 or 4 clips to fully kill you, but she will always just be on your back, making you walk from health pack to health pack unless you turn around and kill her. But turning around and killing her can be hard because she's got a very small hitbox and blinks and recall and all that. Now the entire B tier is just people that annoy you. Sim and Junk are easy to kill if you get on them, and they don't have much range damage to affect you. But turrets and trap can be annoying if you don't find them, or you just get surprised by them. Accidentally walk into a turret, now you're slow, or a trap, now you can't move. And same with Doomfist, all 3 of his abilities mess up your movement. You can outrange him, and you can harass him, but it's just always so annoying to move and get your rollouts done if there's a Doomfist using any of his cooldowns near you. And then the bottom tier, easy to kill. Widow, you can sneeze on her, she's dead. She's the easiest kill of your life, unless she's got the Mercy Pocket. Genji is a harder kill to get because he has deflect, wall climb, double jump, dash. He can get away from you very easily, but there's really no threat of him killing you because you have so much health compared to the damage he outputs. Just try not to feed him too much ult charge. And Pharah, once again, might be hard for you to kill her because she's in the sky flying really high, but you can just grapple up near her and shoot her a few times. You can kill her pretty quickly if she gets close, if you can get close enough to her and aim really well. But for the most part, it's just that she's never going to kill you. Maybe you get annoyed by a boop here and there, but you're like the second best tank, aside from D.Va, to actually kill a Pharah. And then tanks. Hog is the best tank counter to Ball, no doubt about it. He hooks you, he has a shotgun close range, does a lot of damage. You're rarely going to kill him because of how much health and his self-healing that he has. And if he ults you and gets you in a corner, you're just dead, or even if he just ults you, it's going to mess you up a lot, make you go really far away. I've faced 6 many times and gone farmed by him probably 90% of the time. D.Va is kind of similar to Hog, close range, shotguns, high damage, but it's harder for her to get close to you compared to Hog where you can hook you in. D.Va has to fly towards you and burst you down. Zarya, she also has high damage when you get in close to her, not as much as D.Va though. Her annoyance comes from her bubbles. If she's smart with her bubbles, she can completely block your slam or your shields, and then you're gonna die quicker because you were expecting to get more value or more things out of your slam that you didn't get. Sigma, as well as Zarya, can just shield to block your slams and shields. He can rock you to mess you up, force you out of ball. He plays pretty good range, but once you get on top of him, boop him past his shield, and your team can collapse on him, you can kill him. You can out 1v1 him a lot of time. That's why he's at the bottom of the A. Ours is very similar to Sigma in the way that she can pull you and annoy you at range, and she has gold, so it's hard to boop her, and she's got her self-sustain with shield and gold. But once you get her and boop her and slam her past her shield and everything, then she's a fairly easy kill. Reinhardt, also very easy kill. You'll actually out 1v1 him a lot because you can just play above or behind and roll around and he can't really get close to you. The scary part of Reinhardt is more so just the rush comp that comes with him. If you're not constantly slowing him down and his team down, then whenever you go in and you don't boop him back, he could just roll over your team. And so although Reinhardt isn't scary to you, you being on ball is scary because he can walk over your team. Ball actually kind of counters ball pretty hard. When fireballing into each other, there's always a weird interaction and no one knows who gets priority boop and why. A ball can be like a tracer and just chase you around and make you not get your setup off because he's constantly tickling you and annoying you. And you always have to be wary of the ball when you minefield because he can just slam your minefield and just completely break them all. Winston is the easiest kill for you. He does a static amount of damage and you do a lot more than that against his big monkey head. He's kind of similar to Reinhardt where you have to be scared about what he does to your team, but he's not scared of you at all. But you can boop him out of his bubbles when he's engaging, mess him up, because he'll expect to play in his bubble, and then next thing you know, he's out of his bubble. The only thing that he can really do to you is use his taser to cleave all your minefield and clean them up really quickly. And finally, supports. I'm going to do it in reverse just because. Moira. Although she will be very hard for you to kill because of her fade and self-healing, she does nothing to you. Her damage orb and her damage is not scary at all. She doesn't have any stuns to mess you up. The worst she can do is fade away. Lucio. He can boop you away, but that's about it. He's hard to kill just like Moira with his movement and healing, but the only thing that he can do to stop you is boop you away. Like how I said earlier with DPS, Mercy damage reduces DPS. So Mercy, same as Moira, hard to kill because she can just fly around and stuff. She's just more scary because she enables DPS to be harder to 1v1. But if you ever go on like a Widow Mercy, and the other support isn't paying attention to the Mercy, you could most likely kill the Mercy if she doesn't fly away. And then Bap, he does damage to you. At range, he does damage. Lamp, very annoying. His self-heal, annoying. But his cooldowns are very strong, and you have the power to get those cooldowns out very easily. If you find a Bap in the back line alone, and you go on him, he's going to do damage to you, right? But if you get him low enough, you're going to force out his Immortality Field. And that is a massive resource advantage. Immortality Field is a long cooldown that saves people's lives. And if you can make him use it on himself, that is big value. You can then disengage and re-engage, knowing that he doesn't have that. Zen, once you get on him, free kill. Kind of like a soldier or a McCree though, where you will kill him, but he is going to chunk you down before you do so. Zenyatta, just being the character that he is, can press a button on you and make your 600 HP go to 450. He just makes the whole tanking thing harder because he makes everyone do more damage. So although he's an easy kill, you have to be wary of getting bursted down very quickly. Ana can be a free kill, kind of like Zen, except she's got nade and sleep. If you get slept while in the middle of a team, they're easily going to set up and follow up to kill you. She can be easy to kill. She won't do as much damage to you as Zen, but with nade, she actually has like 300 health, and so it's annoying to kill her. And you'll notice I made a new tier just for Brig, because she is the hardest ball canner in the game. Bastion, Sombra, we don't care about those. Brig will make Ball's job very, very hard. Remember earlier when we said you can dive, duel, and disrupt? Brig stops all three of those. She makes you not be able to dive because her sustain makes her team very hard to kill, and anytime you go in, you're gonna get bashed or whipped. If you're going into slam, she can look at you, whip you, and then your slam is going not where you want it to be. Or same with your boop, your roll through, you'll get booped on it and not end up where you want to be, or she'll mess up your momentum. Same reason that she stops your disrupt. You can't roll through, you can't boop them back because the brig's paying attention, she'll just stun or boop you away. And duel, she just pockets that person across the map with a pack. You're on that widow, well, brig can just send a pack to her across the map. Brig can even throw a whip at you across the map, make you mess up your 1v1. She can just deny anything that you try to do. And finally, just quickly, I want to go over maps. Maps doesn't decide too often when you play ball, but Koths or King of the Hill control maps, really good. Stall potential, the mega health packs that are everywhere, being able to minefield on point, all of it just really good for ball. You notice all 4 of them are there. The only one that's not there is Lijiang. A lot of people like Lijiang, and it is a good ball map. Lijiang is just much more difficult because Control Center, the inside one, has always been harder for ball to be played. And then also recently on Night Market, people have been playing Sim in the TP window, and it's just very hard for ball to break that, especially when they have like a Mayor Junk or Kree on top of that. And then all the rest of these maps are all just good. There's nothing really wrong with them. There's high grounds you can play around. There's good flanks, good cover, a lot of things going for him. Nothing wrong with those maps. The next tier down can still be played pretty well. There's just some more difficult spots. Eichenwald is a very good map, and honestly, first and second point is like top tier. It's insane for ball. But as soon as you get to third point, it's almost impossible to do anything. There's no flanks, it's just one straight lane. So a lot of times you switch off ball. Junkertown, it gets better the further in the map you get. Third point, pretty good. Second point, meh. And then first point, pretty hard. It's a sniper map, long range, so yes, you counter those snipers, but you take a lot of damage before you even get there, and you're very predictable because they can see you the entire time. Hanamura can defend alright, just attacking is more difficult, and then Rialto, third and second, pretty difficult as well. And the last 3 maps are just meh because there's only a few spots that you're actually good. Havana, second point, you're alright, but third point, impossible to do anything, and first point, very hard to do something. The second part of first point, you might be able to get stuff done and get the harass the snipers at the first part, but as soon as you turn that corner, then it gets a lot harder. And Temple, really it's only good for attacking first. After that gets difficult. Defense is scuffed, you can do it, can be just awkward, and might just be better off playing a ranged tank, like a Resursic. And then King's Row, just a classic brawl map, where everyone plays around Zarya, straight laneways, very few flanks, very few health packs. Third point is really hard. Just a lot about it just doesn't do well for ball. If you're still watching and you watched the entire thing, geez, I appreciate you. You are crazy. I hope you learned something, at least. Hopefully a lot of things, but even if it's just a few things, that's great. Good luck on improving and getting the gains. I'm sure you got this. I'm not planning on having to redo this for a while. Maybe when Overwatch 2 comes out, a lot of things will change, but there will be a bunch of heroes and a bunch of things that change about the entire game. So like this would take a while to do once it comes out, so everyone can adapt and relearn the game. So I'm not planning on having to redo this for a while. And don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe, all those things. Follow my Twitch as well, that'd be pretty cool. You guys can watch me live. And yeah, peace.